This is Scoreline presented by Taco Bell. It has been a busy transfer window. A lot of zeros in these transfer fees. Morgan Rogers leading the way at $157.7 million. Elliot Anderson, Yan Diomande, Sandro Tonali, Mateus Fernandez, and Bruno Guimarães all going for 9-figure transfer fees this summer. 5 of those into the Premier League. Diomande, the lone representative outside of England. So we're obviously talking about transfers day and night here on the Golazo Network until the close of the window. But as it stands right now, we wanted to go through our best transfers 11. And so, Jaydee, you have the honors of going first. Take us through your best 11 of players that have moved this summer.
Okay, it's still fluid. I want everybody to recognize that part first, right? Because there's still a couple of deals in the background that I'm liking, especially in one of the teams. Actually, take it back, both of the teams in North London. But what I've liked so far is the announcement. The announcement of James Trafford in his own career, the ownership of his own career, because I didn't realise until this previous World Cup the age of Jordan Pickford and how he's actually been seasoned and England's #1 for a long period of time. There's no doubt about it that James Trafford is probably saying to himself, I want to be a #1 in my club team and I want to be #1 for the national team. And how you do that, you establish yourself at a big team that's redeveloping themselves, push themselves into a new direction. And Leeds didn't look like last year a team that was looking to come up and go straight back down. No, they looked like they were looking to establish themselves as a full-fledged Premier League team. Historic club, great big club, great move for him. Let's move to the back four, right? And the reason why I'm going to give credit to all of these moves is, first of all, Jed Spence, sell while high. That's what all of my stock managers always tell me. Sell while high. Jed's value at his all-time high. I remember the conversations he had around when he was at Nottingham Forest and people were questioning whether or not he was going to be good enough to play at this level. He was going to be good enough to play in the Premier League. He's now gone and had a World Cup tournament where he's had moments. The last-ditch tackle, the clearance off the line, the man marking of Messi for, let's say, 75 minutes. He did really well. He really showcased that he's not only efficient going forward, but really versatile on both wings and also is a really good one-on-one defender. These are the two stills, though. In terms of value, international defender and Lacroix, and of course, Ezri Konsa now making the move as well. Both of those two are going to establish themselves. Love the fact that Arsenal are adding competition in their back four because their back four is showing elements of shakiness, not necessarily in terms of their performance, but their fitness levels. Lacroix going to go in there and automatically command, I think, one of the best positions in Chelsea and turn around and establish himself as their #1 option in that centre-half position, which they've needed for a minute. And maybe one of the coups of the summer is Cucurella going home. He's already spoken about it in the media. We know it's been rumbling for the last 6 months. But the transition from Chelsea to any time you put on a Real Madrid shirt is fantastic. Your thoughts so far, first of all, before we get to my midfield?
Yeah, for me, I think Spence is a really interesting one just because of, I sort of wonder, why did Spurs have to get rid of him? Because you have Porro, who looked great at the World Cup. You have Spence, who looked great at the World Cup. Why not just keep 2 great World Cup fullbacks? But they decided on that a while ago. Konsa's interesting me because of the versatility.
Yes.
Can play some center back, can play some right back as well. Maybe fill in for Ben White, who's had plenty of injury issues down the years.
I love the fact you said that because you can talk about players that have shown elements of consistency for different reasons. These 3 are winners in their own right. All have had their own fair of injury problems, I will say that. But what I would also say is you know what you're getting from them when they're fully fit, when they're engaged. And I'm happy with the advancement they've all made in their own careers. Of course, we're going to talk about former Ballon d'Or winner, first of all, Rodri, because if I was feeling my way, I would have put Rodri in the middle because he commands the middle of the pitch. Him going to Barcelona has, for me, elevated Barcelona into the conversations as the favourites for the Champions League instantly. That's another conversation for another day. Shout out to my boy Chris Wittyngham for his facial expressions there. Yuri Tillemans, I think, might be the steal in terms of pound for pound of this summer. How Manchester United managed to understand that release clause and also engage upon it has really showcased to me in terms of what he's done. I think he shows an element of consistency and class in the middle of a midfield that sometimes is just a little bit underrated and doesn't necessarily show up in terms of goals and assists, but dictation of tempo, trust me, Yuri is the guy. And Bruno Guimarães is just going to add the tenacity, the skill that Arsenal already have in their midfield, but now have it at a completely new level. I love the development of Miles Lewis-Skelly this last 6 months since the Champions League final all the way through. Really probably could have snuck into an England squad if you were thinking correctly, and that's fair enough, but Bruno Guimarães has really showed he's not only brilliant in terms of in the transitions, making those tackles, being tough tackling and tenacious and wanting to engage in the press, but the 4 assists in the World Cup, to a lot of them to Vini Jr. as well, showed he's got that class and that Brazilian touch in the final third as it is. I believe that these 3 now have all great points to prove. And I want to start with Diomande, right? I know PSG were the front runners. We saw all the here we goes, and it didn't quite work out how it wanted to. But this sometimes is the best path for you. And I've seen a lot of teenagers go to Real Madrid over the last couple of years and not get opportunities to establish themselves. We could run through all of the names, but he has something a little bit different. There's an internal confidence. There's an internal arrogance that I need my forward players especially to have. And I think he smells it, he sees it, and he wants to grab this opportunity to really establish himself as an African superstar for Real Madrid. I mean, Gonzalo Ramos, I've been waiting for this one, though.
Yeah.
Go to a team and showcase you are the definitive number 9. Not in glimpses of 15 minutes here. We don't need a Chicharito or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You don't want to be known as a super sub your whole life when you have that much ability. What he can do now in a Milan shirt is establish him back into competitiveness and chase him for a Scudetto. And Anthony Gordon, I know I had a lot of question marks, and rightfully so, in terms of the move from Newcastle to Barcelona. The value was really good. You also let go of Marcus Rashford in this transition. But people don't recognise what he does off the ball. You have to play to really understand what Anthony Gordon does off of the football, which makes him such a prized possession, both in possession and out of it. And I do believe that this right here is a Dream 11 in terms of so far, but I will say it's fluid.
There's still work to do in the transfer window, and I'm actually going to get to my team now. We actually have a fair few similarities. I guess I'll pick out the differences. So we'll start first with the goalkeeper. Okay. That is the one change. I have gone for Zion Suzuki, who's going to Aston Villa, has that incredibly big task of replacing Emiliano Martinez. Pipo Martinez at Aston Villa has been a legend there. It's a big shout for him to take the move. Another one that was potentially linked to Paris Saint-Germain for a long time. It was tweets and tweets. Here we go. And then Suzuki ends up at Aston Villa. Big shoes to fill, but I think he can do it. I think he's looked really good at Parma.
Okay.
In terms of the back four, the only difference I believe is I went for Jeremy Jacquet.
You did.
I know it's an interesting one because that deal was technically done in January, but he's joining now in the summer. We have to see if he's ready to step up and fill the boots of Virgil van Dijk, to actually be able to partner next to him, to fill the boots of Ibrahima Konate, who did not have a good season last year. But Jacquet can be the kind of player that makes a difference for a Liverpool side who last year really struggled defensively.
One question mark. Expensive price tag for him, especially for a young man coming over with a wealth of pressure that's on his shoulders now.
Yeah.
And you talk about the opportunities of filling a role. Are you concerned about the price tag at all?
Well, the thing is that it's interesting because we'll talk about Diomande a little bit more because I have him in my team as well. If you let him prove himself at a higher level, the price tag goes up another 40, 50 million. You almost have to take the chance. I believe in my scouting. I believe that what I've seen is enough. He's only played 40 games, but another 30 games, the difference between 60 million and 100 million. And so Liverpool took the risk that they believe that he's going to be able to go into the shoes. At the same time, though, it's early. It's very early for him in terms of being able to go and step into that role. Now, let's move then to my midfield. So my midfield, we share Rodri and Tielemans, but I've gone for Sandro Tonali.
I'm not upset with it.
Because Tonali, for me, is the kind of player that Spurs have needed for so long. A midfielder who is not just good. They have plenty of hard men in the tackle that are able to physically get about the pitch. Conor Gallagher's and Basumas and Tassars. They've had plenty of presences in midfield. But someone who's actually a touch of class on the ball, that can create those forward passes that release the attackers into good positions. They have been begging for a player like Tonali for years now. I think that is by far the best move that they've made in the transfer window. They're linked with more, with Savinho and Marmoush. And then Tielemans, I love the fact that you also mentioned him, because Tielemans, for me, it's interesting we talk about in players like Rodri and players like Tielemans, players who are absolutely the finished article. You don't normally see the big clubs now going out and spending money, players in their late 20s, players in their early 30s, but Manchester United know they needed to completely overhaul their midfield, and that's exactly what they've done in this transfer window. They're close as well on Carlos Baliba from Brighton, which is another interesting one, but I really like Tielemans and what he's going to be able to bring to this team. Now, moving on to the forward line, we agree on Diomande.
We do.
We agree on Gonzalo Ramos. I will take it a step further from what you said as well. It's not just about him proving to himself. Milan desperately need this to work.
Gosh,
they have spent so much money on strikers.
Yes.
They have tried again and again, and they've gone big. Serie A clubs do not normally spend 70 million on a player.
They don't.
You have to really push the boat out to go and get a player for 70 million. Ruben Amorim said, I want this guy. Ruben Amorim had a tough go at Manchester United. This has to work. If it doesn't work, this is a cataclysmic transfer for Milan. Then I have to go for my guy, Magnus Akliush. I've loved him for 2 years at Monaco. You watch a Monaco game, you watch Magnus Akliush the last 2 years. He is absolutely fantastic, and I'm really curious to see in a forward line that is incredibly crowded at Paris Saint-Germain, can he express himself? Can he be the Akliush that we have seen at Monaco when really the team ran through him? Now you got to play with Dembele and Kvara and Doué. Are you playing in the Champions League? Are you a Ligue 1 kind of player? And so I love him as a talent. I think he's now buried in two teams. He's buried in PSG and he's buried in the French national side because he could hardly play for them either. But this is a phenomenal talent.
So my question actually is applicable to both of the wingers you've chosen. Of course, I had Diomande as well.
Yeah.
How many minutes do you see both of them getting? Do they actually maybe disrupt something and actually establish themselves as first-team players and definitive starters for their respective teams? Because they are representing two of the biggest teams in Europe.
I think both can do it. I think Akliush absolutely has the talent to be able to do that. But Diomande is more likely just on the basis of what they're bringing in. The question, though, is he's another player who can play off the left. Is he going to play off the right to accommodate a front line of Mbappe and Witty on the left side? Because you almost wonder if Diomande was brought into the fold, at least in part, as insurance in the event that Witty left. Now that you have both, you have to make it all work. And again, Real Madrid have the problem of making too much attacking talent work. Because, yes, they've had this attacking talent for 2 years now, but the chemistry hasn't been there to the tune of winning. So you have to actually make the collective work. And you know Jose Mourinho is going to emphasize defensive ability, defensive work. So he's going to have to put in that shift in order to stay in the team. But yeah, it's fascinating as ever with Real Madrid. How do the pieces fit?
And you know what? It's taking me back to the Real Madrid that I appreciated when I was growing up. You know, when we had the Raul, Ronaldo, and Owens, or you had somehow you had to fit Beckham, Figo, and Zidane all in the same teams. This has always been a team that has had a wealth of options and had a number of quality. And I think that's what's been diminished over the last few years. The player that's coming off is not really replaced by the same equal player that's coming on. And finally, you're looking at Real Madrid and like, okay, there's game winners everywhere now. Yeah. So we now need to spread the wealth. And what does that give? Gives Kylian more space. And that right there, I actually quite like it at Witty. I'm not going to lie. I'm really impressed. And we didn't actually exchange notes at all, by the way.
Yeah.
So
I think we had 7 similar players.
That's not bad.
Pretty good.
That's not bad at all. Only had one in each position. That's not bad at all.
Great minds.
I like it.
Great minds.